Recording in progress.
Hello and welcome to the competitor briefing for the RS Sprints 2026. My name is John Fothergill and I have the pleasure of being your race officer this year. The other race officer is David Rowlands, who I'll be on the start boat and David will be on the finish boat. A few housekeeping things to start with. Site access, the entrance barrier will be open at peak times from about 8 or 8:30 tomorrow morning, and if it's shut then just push the intercom to get in. As you come into the site, there's a car park on the left for where you can park your cars on a hard standing. You can put the boats on the lawn in front of the clubhouse, between the clubhouse and the water. And if you could then put trailers out of the way, but near the back hedge, please. Dogs are welcome, but please don't take them through the main entrance through the clubhouse. They can go onto the clubhouse balcony and into the wet bar cafe, but please use the steps on the outside of the clubhouse at the front, and they must be kept on a short lead. If you've got club accommodation, then you should have got an email already from the club about this, but you can collect the keys from the club office before it closes. We have a small chandlery in the clubhouse, which should enable you to get what you need to get back on the water. So if you have any problems there, please ask in the club office. Wet gear, please respect the clubhouse. You can go in the wet bar and the cafe, that's okay, but please don't spoil the lounge for the members. And we have a check, clean, dry process in place at the behest of Anglin Water, so please see the notice of race about that. Rutland Water is, if you haven't been there before, it's quite a big water. I think it's actually the largest reservoir in England, certainly by area. And the Rutland Sailing Club, as you can see, is situated on the southern shore near Edith Weston. There's bike hire nearby also, and there's plenty of walking and running as well, but it is about 26 miles to run completely around the lake. There's also other attractions at various other car parks around the lake. For example, over here there are plenty of refreshments, and you can go on a boat ride around the lake if you wanted to. So we tend to sail in this part of the lake. In fact, we're not allowed to go too far west because this area is for wildlife, and you can see there's a lot of bird watching hides available here. I'm not sure where we're going to be sailing yet, but typically we sail in this area here with these open events because it gives us a little bit more space, and the wind tends to be a bit more reliable in that area. So let's have a look at the weather and the course locations. Well, Saturday, at the moment, I'm recording this on Friday, the wind forecasts are differing in direction, but they're all saying the wind is going to be quite light. Fortunately, it's going to be quite a nice day, mostly sunny, with temperatures ranging that feel like from about 10 to 17 degrees. But I can't tell you where the course location will be. Indeed, I'm hoping that we'll be able to go sailing. But if the wind is really light, then that might be in jeopardy for the Saturday. However, the course location will be shown on the official notice board, and there's a big chart of the lake by the main entrance, the clubhouse, where we'll also put the course location. And I'll keep you up to date as to what's happening in the morning. On Sunday, it looks like we should have a reasonable breeze, I suppose, probably about 7 knots, coming probably from the southeast. As you know, this varies from day to day at the moment. And again, a fine day with mostly sunny, temperatures feeling like about 9 to 15. Again, the course location's uncertain, but if it is like that, I'll probably sail over in this area here. I know there's quite a big sailing event going on in the southern arm in the afternoon, but we'll probably be more or less finishing by the time that starts anyway. So, general things, the official notice board and registration will be in the cafe, and Laurie from the RS Association will be there for registration. As I've just mentioned, the course area will be shown in the notice board in the cafe and also on the chart just outside the main entrance. The first starts are Saturday starting at 12:30 and Sunday starting at 10:30, and Sunday I should think we'll be finishing about 2 o'clock, and there'll be a general prize giving somewhere around an hour later, as soon as we can do it. The course is a sort of point-to-point course, so you start and have a short leg up to to Mark 1, beach round there to Mark 2, then downwind to Mark 3, it's reach across to Mark 4, a beat up to 5, reach across to 6, and then a run down to 7, where you do a sort of dog leg and then go around the finish here. So the idea of this course really is to have lots of short sprints, good practice for starting and finishing and rounding marks, so probably a good thing to start off the season with as well. In practice, we'll probably move this finish boat back down here, and the idea really is to have fairly short races of around 20 minutes. And then once you've finished, you come back to the start line and start probably about 10 minutes later. So you're kept fairly busy. Races. You're racing most of the time for about 3 hours. That's my aim anyway. Now, referring to the sailing instructions, which I'm sorry are rather complicated, we talk about starts for the smaller fleets and larger fleets. And the larger fleets have a slightly more complicated format with round-robin qualifying series on the Saturday and gold and silver fleets racing on the Sunday. However, I think there's going to be insufficient boats to form any larger fleets, and so all racing in the sailing instructions will be according to the smaller fleet format, which is much simpler. So the racing format will be that each class normally has its own start, and I'm anticipating the first start sequence of the day will be 600s, 400s, 500s, 300s, 100s, and then varios. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 starts in that first race. So each class will have its own start. It is possible, if we don't get too many in one class, then I might combine their starts with another class. But essentially that's what I'm thinking at the moment. And we've got 6 scheduled races for the Saturday and 6 on the Sunday. All races score equally and there are no discards, so be careful. So the start sequence is at the start of every race sequence, at the start of the 6 races, we have an orange flag, and then that's 5 minutes before the first start. 4 minutes before the first start, in other words, a minute later, we display a course board on the back of the committee boat. So that's one, for example, that's the 600 course board. That's on the back of the committee boat for the first start. And then a G flag is displayed, so we're not using class flags, we're just using the course boards. A G flag will be displayed, and it's basically 3, 2, 1, go. So 3 minutes before the start, the G flag's displayed. 2 minutes before, a P flag. 1 minute before P is removed, and then the first start starts when the G flag is removed. And after it's removed, we then change the class course board to the next to this class that's next starting, and then we go a minute later. We go through this 3-2-1 sequence again. The course board makes it much quicker for us to turn races round, and in some ways I think it's easier when you've got 6 different fleets rather than displaying fairly small class flags. Individual recall, if there are individual recalls, it'll be the X flag as normal, and the general recall, however, is entirely different. So pay attention. If you have a general recall, all of the boats go round either end of the line and just go immediately. In other words, the start sequence doesn't stop. Now, you might think that's a bit unfair, but in practice, we don't have many boats on the start line at any point. And so I've got a pretty good view of the start line as the race officer. And so I can pretty much spot individuals who are over the line. And so I won't be hesitant in calling individual recalls. And so don't feel that you can lead the fleet over the line. It's quite possible that I'll be able to catch you out if you're individually going over the line. So I'm hoping general recalls will be pretty rare, and in fact the last couple of years I don't think we've had any at all. Finally, areas that are obstructions. Well, drifting fishing boats with anglers who are fishing need more than 40-metre clearance. They tend to get out of the way once we've started racing anyway, because it's obviously not a good place for them to be. But that's the law of the lake. There's a pleasure cruiser called the Rutland Belle, which is a lot bigger than you. And you have to give it priority. If it does come round our way, I'll make sure that some of the safety boats are there. But I tend to try to avoid starting races just as we've got it, but then we are racing most of the time. There are 2 water towers, but only one near where we're likely to be racing. Again, they're far bigger than you are, and they're designed for you to come off worse if you hit them, so please don't. And club mooring areas, we're not likely to be near them, but there are some cruisers that are moored on buoys, and so you'll have to avoid those as well. So I think that's about it. So good luck, and I do hope you enjoy the RS Sprints this year.